Thanks, Ivan. Sorry, guys, I couldn't be there today. I hope you guys enjoy my part of the presentation.
All right, I'm going to talk about the strategic analysis we conducted on Tesla, and basically we answered the 5 questions we learned in this class. So first of all, is Tesla successful? We found it depends, and it largely depends on your viewpoint. For example, in this chart, we should actually read revenue instead of profit. Tesla looks to be very successful. However, once you add expenses, we see a much different picture. And the reason why we said maybe is because in 2012, it didn't look like they were doing so well. 2013 looked like they were doing a little bit better. And then around 2014, 15, it looked like expenses were taking off again at a faster rate than its revenues. Here we have a chart showing the comparative growth capital valuation. At the bottom in gray, we have some of the larger automobile players. Red is, of course, Tesla. And with these kind of figures, it's no wonder that investors are betting yes, Tesla is actually a successful company. So what we have here is a company that might not be considered successful because it has yet to have a profit, but they're definitely, the majority of investors are betting on the future success of the company. So what is Tesla's source of success? What we found is that Tesla's primary source of success, even with all of these benchmarks, is that it has an ability to convince investors that it will be profitable in the future. And that Tesla is actually so good at doing this, they're currently valued at over $30 billion. And it's important to note here that without this source of success of being able to convince investors, Tesla would not be able to have done any of the accomplishments it has accomplished today. So what is Tesla's strategy? Sure, we agree it's not the cost strategy. And as we see here, Tesla is great at adding value. It has added its complements such as the superchargers. They have great customer service. They're constantly adding new features such as this recent auto drive. And Tesla's also engaged in activities to reduce costs, such as its Gigafactory 1 construction and the release of its IP, which drastically increases its value. So Tesla's strategic advantages. I'm sure we all agree that Tesla has some great products. But what we decided to focus on is Tesla's strategic advantage within the markets. Over the next few slides, I have some illustrations, and just be aware that the different colors represents different car companies, different shapes represents different cars, and that you just need to keep track of red being Tesla and triangle representing a sports car. So this represents the car industry in the late 20th century. Which Michael Porter described as virtually stopping every successful new entry because of its enormous economies of scale, its automation of processes, and its efficient vertical integration. However, because of globalization and innovation, that had actually changed, and which made it much more inviting to a company like Tesla. If you were to segment the car industry by technology, as we did here, here we have the gas engine, the centuries-year-old technology. The middle we have the hybrid, and then over here we have the EV. We see a much more favorable, less competitive market. And in 2003, when Tesla actually was incorporated, Toyota had the Prius, which was basically the only Prius, the only hybrid in that market. And there were maybe a couple of EVs in the lower end markets. And of course, Tesla was interested in the high-end electronic vehicles, sports niche markets. And so in 2008, Tesla entered the market, but at that time we saw a few more players within the hybrid market. But besides that, the industry was relatively unchanged. But once Tesla was able to prove to the world that there was not only a market, but having electronic vehicles were actually feasible and viable, we began to see a trend of companies moving in that direction. And while these companies were moving in a horizontal direction, Tesla had its eyes on the mass market, which is a downward move. And so looking at the horizontal move, we realized that a horizontal move is actually a technological move from the ancient gas engine to a transitional hybrid to electronic vehicle. We realized that Tesla's competitors basically have 3 choices on how to make this change. They can, number one, reallocate resources, such as Honda in developing its hydrogen engine, or it can form partnerships. Chevy has recently formed a partnership with LG, and Benz has formed a partnership with Tesla. And then on the other hand, Tesla is looking for a downward movement, which is essentially an economies of scale movement, bringing their luxury product down to the masses. And when you look at Tesla's activities, they have been drastically increasing demand by offering a variety of different products and forming different partnerships. They have been also focused on increasing supply as they have begun constructing their Gigafactory, which is going to flood the market with batteries in the near future. And so are these competitive advantages sustainable? We applied the V-Rolls framework to Tesla's original products, and we found no, they're not. Because although they might have been valuable and rare at the time, they're becoming more and more normal. And as we see here, there's already 3 options on what the competitors are doing. And of course, out of the 3, Tesla would be most interested in forming these partnerships. And this kind of explains why Tesla has made its patents publicly available and why it's actively engaged in activities that some consider to be cannibalizing its own business. But what we think is happening is that Tesla may actually have its attention on providing cheap, clean energy as a service in the near future. And if you apply this to the real framework, we see that, yes, this is valuable. Cheap energy will be rare. It's going to be costly to imitate. And of course, no other organization will already have the infrastructure necessary to capture this market. And so from this perspective, we not only consider Tesla's competitive advantage to be sustainable and well protected, but this also explains why Tesla, even though they have not yet been profitable, has managed to accumulate a valuation of $30 billion from its investors being confident in the future success of the company. And so with that, I'll pass the mic on to Amy.